All right. Hello. All right. It should be live. Now I will put it up where we have to.
All right. Um, is there anything particular I should speak about?
Yeah, I thought I would start with a question. I thought I would start out with like, do you believe in aliens?
Um, I don't even know if I can answer that question in a articulate way. I think as a meme, the aliens are real in the sense that we give reality to it.
Hmm.
But I mean, there's so many different arguments you can make about like what's that one? Oh man, I always I feel like I blank on all the specific like intellectual keywords, but there's some like proof that's like by a probability either nothing having reached out to us or there's so many. Oh my god! Okay, wait. So we got some Kirkistat video. I'm mispronouncing that. Talking about the
Yeah.
levels
Yeah.
of civilization.
Hmm.
There's that one where it's like uh, no aliens have broken out of this level of civilization, or maybe aliens are watching us. There's a lot of different like proofs to suggest that we're either the one hit wonder, or it's highly likely there are other things out there. They're either choosing not to get in touch with us, or the fact that they haven't indicates that they're not there. Um, Ultimately, it feels like it's all just in this like speculative realm, and depending on like how I choose to internalize it and act upon it. In like the direct conspiracy stuff, though, I think it's very funny. There's such like wide spaces on the internet where people have consolidated so much research talking about, oh, the government like changed this and they leaked this, and Roswell, and uh, like Bob Lazar, that whole Netflix documentary series. It's so weirdly sensationalized and has such like deep roots that maybe if I spent all day looking at it beforehand, the aliens would be real to me then. But right
I
now,
would
it's
like, I don't know. I think it's like relatively presumptuous to say. I think like what Kurdistan is getting at is like, oh, aliens would be real if if they were real, they would act like this. Like that's a really big assumption on his part. Like what if aliens don't fucking act like people? I think
mhm.
there's no reason an alien needs to act like a person. No reason
It's
it needs
definitely
to
just
conform to human logic. It makes it's a mistake to assume like that aliens wouldn't visit us in dreams, visit us in DMT trips, and so on.
Oh,
Like,
jeez.
who
Okay, yeah, no.
knows? You know what I
In
mean?
that realm,
Who knows why?
the machine
Exactly.
elves,
What
man.
if that is? What if that is the real extraterrestrial life form? Why do they need to act like people? I have always
Hmm.
thought that like that humanizing element is a bad idea if you want to like deal with aliens or any like big group of power. Like you people that are trying to understand it do not have the power to grasp power.
I definitely, I've completely agree with this sentiment. What's that book series? It's Orson Scott Card, Ender's
Mhm.
Game. He, in one of the spin-off series in that, does like this whole world where Ender travels to another planet and he's like the speaker of the dead. He talks on behalf of these different species and like articulates uh, basically their reasoning for different decisions they made. But that to me really embodies this notion of like they could be driven by an entirely different set of like biological imperatives, and beyond that, like why are they constrained to matter? Why are they
Mhm.
constrained to any dimension or way we choose to conceptualize things based off of like we are primates that evolved this way?
Exactly.
So
Everything intelligent has to be like us, which I think
mhm.
brings us to the next important point. So there's a William S. Burroughs quote, which is something like, um, "Language is a virus from outer space," which is to say, like memetic viruses are from another world. What do you
Mhm.
think about that? Do you think that human consciousness is subject to external forces, or what? How do you view memes? If a meme, because I think that what my videos oftentimes try to show is that memes can be harmful. do you think it's an external harm, or do you think that people are able to really just manufacture them?
I would say, you know, there has to be like an OG meme, because I feel like
Mm.
what we are is like replicators, in like the Dawkins sense. Like we're just taking in an enormous amount of memes and kind of selectively emitting them, either through language or, I guess like walking in the periphery of a person might mean you're like emitting color and, movement that their eyes are collapsing and interpreting as, their presence as a meme. Um, it's it it I don't even know how to begin to like answer the question really. I feel if we kind of originated as a, I don't know, like a meteor. What is the creation myth that science agrees on? Is it that we evolved from the ocean?
Mm.
When did
Yeah, and that
consciousness first
we
hit, or
came out
is
of
it?
pools of amino acids, like we're products of fluid, liquids.
I find it just like, maybe if you can offer like a little more of a stepping stone, I can build off of that. But I feel like
Sure.
I'm seeking backwards, and I'm like,
All right,
I don't
I'll
even
start
know how
with
to like.
here's a different question, but I think super
Okay.
important. What is the first meme that you ever saw?
As a human, or like,
Yes, the first meme that I mean online. What was the first meme you
oh,
ever
first
saw?
meme I ever saw. I feel like it'd have to. I was like an OG 9gag user when I was maybe in early elementary. Uh, I for some reason what comes to mind is, I can't. It's a rage comic. It's kind of this like very sad looking egg shaped head. I feel like I should know the name of it. Um, if this is conjuring anything to anyone,
Mm.
it's like a head shaped like this. It's a very sad rage comic face, kind of like looking down,
Is it?
maybe
Okay. Is it? It's not Forever
longingly.
Alone, right? Or is it
It might
like
be
I
for.
think?
Let me forever. I'm gonna search up in the other. It's not
But
Forever Alone. It's,
it's like the dejected normal guy. I think
yeah. I think
it
it
might be like
seems to evoke
okay.
shame.
Mm. I think I know the. I think I know the one.
Or there's something disapproving about it. It's either someone casting a disapproving projection onto this person and they're reacting to that, or they themselves are disapproving of something. That's what comes to mind. I'm sure it was something beforehand. I do seem to remember a lot of like rage comics and that kind of like rainbow uh, text here, text here.
I remember the first meme that I ever saw was in a music video. It was a Weird Al like fan made music video for eBay, and
Okay.
it's the point when it's like I'm the type who's liable to snipe you, and it's a little kitten with a sniper rifle. I will never forget that. It was like it was it's like a surreal. It was it was a lolcat, but it was like
Mhm.
wow. I was because I think I might have been like 8 or 9, something like that. Because I also remember, oddly enough, like Weird Al directly led to the formation of like all my meme knowledge, I would suppose, because it was also through Weird Al that I got into Nirvana and I heard the for the first time, which got me into Freud. Not when I was like 10, but I remember learning about it. But
You were an early Freudian
yeah,
disciple.
the young Freudian.
Mhm.
But I remember, I think like consciously looking at memes, I saw Rage comics from a friend. They showed me Rage comics, and I could not pronounce meme. I was positive it was like Mimi. Like I could not comprehend meme.
Mhm.
I remember very clearly. Did you ever? What was the first meme that you made? Do you remember making a meme?
I feel like a lot of my early online behavior was through like TeamSpeak or Skype calls, and we would meme each other like in sort of a group
Mm.
chat format. I have a whole litany of these very old like subreddits I started where it would just be off of like an in joke, and we would spam
It was a
post kind
young
of like,
person thing.
spam post like photoshopped pictures of each other onto something. One was it was in reference to Tupac Shakur, and there were 3 people at the time who were in on this joke, so we called ourselves the Tri-Pack, and the whole premise was photoshopping either Tupac onto things or us onto pictures of him, and this might even still exist out there somewhere. I don't know. I tried to kind of retcon my Reddit past at one point to avoid, in the same way that people like delete their early Facebook years. That was a whole thing, especially among my generation in coterie, was people going back and being like, oh, I was so cringy on Facebook. I kept talking about fucking cookies, or like tagging all my friends in a photo of a penguin. What about you? What was the
why
first
do you
meme?
think it is? Like, because I made a rage comic. I remember making rage comics about school. I remember making one before like my first day of 7th grade. Also, it was too late, or it
Mhm.
wasn't. No, it was in the summer before. I was a really odd kid. I just remembered I was obsessed with the Watchmen, and I made my own Watchmen like smiley face pin with blood. Like, I took a normal pin, I put blood on it.
Okay.
I wore it every day, every day for at least a couple months in 7th grade. Absolutely mad. Um, but I'm asking because I'm curious, like, why do you think it is that, in a way, that we care, but why did you care about why it worked? What made you interested in how the internet functions? I know for me it's
This is odd. You cut out for a second there when you were explaining your own motivations.
no, I'm just because I know that it was due to a degree of separation of me to the internet. I was separated because I was raised by older people, and I didn't have any access to the internet until I was like 8 or 9. So I wonder, why do you think you are interested in why it works?
I think the direct motivation for this particular channel came from um, I've tried to like kind of backtrack and look at it. I think I was always a very extremely online person, whether it be through like I wanted to be a Dota 2 professional at one point. I was just clocking in the hours on Steam, nonstop MOBA research and things like that. But definitely a lot of my youth was characterized by like niche knowledge of subcultures, and beyond that, I started to watch just like copious amounts of YouTube. Or I guess throughout all that time, I was watching copious amounts of YouTube, and it got to a point where I continuously felt myself finding series and smaller channels at a certain point, and having an intuitive grasp of effective like content strategies, and feeling like, oh, I can't wait till this is at 1 million, or this will definitely become a very prominent format.
Mm.
And there was like a turning point when I was 18, where I had been involved in a lot of different creative ventures. Kind of, this is another taking a step back. I guess I was always much more like math and science oriented, and wanted to go into engineering or something medicine oriented, just out of kind of expectations of my family, and would take small steps into creative ventures, but felt like I should mainly be focusing on something like realistic as a career and a form of aspirations. But gradually I got more into different creative ventures, and I was helping a friend with kind of film production and just talking a lot about TV shows and movies. But stepping back into the realm of actually, I kind of lost the train of thought, but it was I had just wanted to start something on my own because I had a lot of free time from school, and had felt for a long time that YouTube was becoming oversaturated with content. And there aren't going to be any new YouTube channels. We've reached the death of YouTube, etc. But also, had sort of a turning point that if you are able to like optimize your content to exist within a genre, or form your own genre or subvert the expectations of said dominant figures in a genre, you can still prove to be successful over kind of continuous venture. So that was the motivate. Yeah, that was kind of all over the place.
We're at like a primitive point, I think. I think that, there's very little understanding of what is done right now. Nobody really knows why their content works yet. I think for the most part, people realize like, oh, this is popular, this is not. I'll just do more of this, but they don't grasp why. What I noticed actually in your videos, and it's funny that you'd say you're more into math and science, because it almost strikes me as like art school for YouTube. Like it's a YouTube art, like a YouTube art school for people who want to learn how to make effective videos, color usage, in terms of shot, how to form a shot, or what is it? There's a right compose, how to compose a shot, composition. So I think that you are definitely one of the first to study it, and I often have thought like I think that the kind of work that we do will eventually be sought after for people who want to make effective channels and effective video work, because there is a correct way of doing things online.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about something. We'll talk about your TikTok video, because I've been talking about something similar for a while, but I see it in a different lens. I think that rather than just there being music that is memetic, like a song made that references TikTok, I have noticed, and this I think is really awesome, is that TikTok will just naturally find its way to memetic music. Like Mia Khalifa, it was not written with the intent of like being popular or being a meme. It's just really really fucking stupid and funny. Um, and what's it called? Like, do you want to be Tracer? Like, I think there's a lot of music. Oh, there's another. Like, I've seen They Might Be, because I've been into They Might Be Giants for a while, but to see their music used in TikTok is really fascinating to me, because it's a song that, because I've listened to the album that it's from, Nanobots, and I never really paid much attention to that song. Like, it's one that I would pass over on an album, but on TikTok, it's extremely popular. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's like, did you just what is what you did, blah blah blah.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know the exact one you're. Um, I have like such a what I released today is my attempts. I have kind of like over analysis paralysis, where I tend to overthink things to the umpteenth degree. It's how everyone who's like met me throughout my life kind of characterizes what I do, and it's part of the reason I have a lot of trouble like uploading any videos at all ever, is I tend to overthink them. So today was a very vulnerable moment in the fact that I just tried to like quickly consolidate some of this idea, but the wider, I have so many different kind of disconnected thoughts about TikTok. One is I completely see where you're coming from, where it's almost like this magnetizing force of TikTok looking for any base content to build their own like contributed visuals on top of. And what's fascinating to me from like the creator perspective is I meet so many different musicians and people who want to kind of, it's like the such a motivating essence of young people right now is to like be a content creator of some kind. It's not completely articulated, but gradually like different studies are showing like that's what young people want to do. They want to be influencers. And I see so I see a lot of people who kind of like seek this out, and specifically in the realm of music, the content that's succeeding right now is content that will play into this like memeing and be very open to it and include parts of songs that are almost made to be memed upon. So inevitably, like, they're going to pull apart the entire discography of every notable artist ever and find, like, where is that one snippet I can turn into some meme that I can co-opt into my own kind of amalgam of sound bites and stuff I want to represent me as a creator. But I also see in like the cutting edge of hip hop. Like the most recent video we released is about Lyrical Lemonade, which is like just a music video outfit. I'm sure if you don't know of the name directly, you've seen some of their music videos over the past like 5 years. And
I was really enjoying that video that you put out on that. I thought that one. I got very envious of Lyrical Lemonade. Like, he's a real talent.
Yeah, I like, man, I'm so like awestruck by just the amazing creative things happening right now as like a person who can admire the effort and drive it takes to make literally anything. Like I just admire anyone doing anything, because to be in action and like creation is such a like it's such a like primitive like form of like taking the means and just doing. But seeing what they've built over the past, like, I want to say it was 5 years, but it might even be there's some effect on the internet where you're like, oh, that was like a year ago, and it's like realistically like 3 months. The scope of that channel and how quickly it grew is really mind-blowing, because I mean he's at the point where he is bumping shoulders with literally everyone in the music industry who is kind of shaped popular culture over the past like century.
I gotta say, believe it or not, I worked in the music industry for a bit with music video promotion, and the industry is extraordinarily primitive, and I really find that they're struggling with what to do about the internet. Like, I think that they comprehend this is labels. They comprehend that there is something different about the internet and YouTube versus MTV, but they don't know what it is. They don't grasp it yet. Like
it is what it is. That's the I want to, this is a tangent, but every time someone says what it is, it like reinforces this connective memetic spell I've cast, where at some point I want to like go find every snippet of like notable people I've interacted with or listened to saying what it is, and like make that some large thousands of people. Like, have you seen that when How to Basic like did his face reveal, or his I guess he might or might not have actually revealed who he was, but he had kind of like all these noteworthy creators say like, I am How to Basic, and it was just this very like chills inducing moment in YouTube history, where it's like the solidarity of all these faces who have influenced so many people claiming the mantle of this maskless Batman entity.
It's really funny because at my school, everybody said that our video teacher was How to Basic. That was like the meme. Like everybody thought our video teacher was How to Basic. Josh, do you remember that? It's our editor who's in the chat.
In the chat. I feel like I should open up I don't know if people have been saying anything, but I've been just on the.
No, you can see. Can you not see it on the?
Oh, okay. Here it is.
On the.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was looking at private chat. Okay. Someone said my hands are lagging. I could see that. I don't have very good internet here. Yeah, it was. What were you speaking about? What was your time like in the music? What were you doing exactly in the music video industry?
I'll tell you a little bit about how stupid the methodology is on the internet, at least. Like, the method for the internet was you take a music video link, and you know those endless sites that are just automatic YouTube re-up.
Mm-hmm.
It might be like VideoTube or like BlueTube, SoundTube, like, just, you know how there's just a million of them.
Mm-hmm.
They would take all of those sites, get the link of the music video on that site, and be like, look how many websites you're on. As if no, I'm not even kidding. And you could do that all in one day. You could do that all in a minute if you wanted to. But they'd be like, no. We tell them over the course of 5 months. That way it seems like we're discovering like new places for them. even though there's just it does nothing. It does literally nothing. The only real work that worked was trying to get it on local access TV shows all across the country, and paying like $1,000 or so to send it to MTV, of which it would almost never get on. It was absolute garbage. It was ridiculous. And then I just see a ton of other music promotion companies now that are fake. They just take the money and they do nothing. It's all the same. Like they're nobody grasps memetic advertising yet. And it'll be a scary day when they do, because that will become the most effective. Oh yes, Shin. Oh yes. Yeah, that's what happened to me, Shin. I did it all in a day and they were furious. It was
I
terrible.
on that note of like grasping memetic advertising, I've like had brushes with the world of advertising and kind of like fashion media, just the cultural vanguards, and I feel like they're getting better gradually. Like once Gen Z enters the workforce, you're gonna get some like very intuitively in touch with all these things, people kind of working at some of these companies.
Mhm.
Then I guess like a conspiratorial part of my mind immediately goes to just like different like I feel like the military was researching kind of memetic warfare and some of these ideas
Mhm.
at
It's true.
uh,
Yeah.
the turn of the millennium, and I imagine like that there are very potent existing formulas and things. They're just not like fully articulated to the public. Like
Well, I also
just
think shills play a major part in it. Like,
uh
um, but it's interesting because the discourse is aimed at a certain type of person. Like their memes are aimed at middle-aged people and CNN anchors. Like
mhm.
it's not a meme for the youth, because in a way they've more successfully memed inaction and depression onto young people, which young people have gladly rather than having this kind of like very effective angry youth as was common. The meme doesn't need to be politicized. It simply needs to make one inactive. Whereas their memes are much more easily induced with like popular Twitter people and bullshit like that. But why don't we start, you and I, we will start a memetic PR team.
I yeah no I'm down.
All
I
right.
just as like an aside, this can be some Easter eggs I'm leaving for anyone who has any interest in the creative arc I'm trying to build through what it is. But one of the aside from like speculating on TikTok and talking about a lot of content creation, I've been like behind the scenes actually trying to work with people and make them like viral entities in their own. And there's been one or two that have turned out to be like fairly successful, primarily on TikTok, just because it's like kind of free real estate right now. But that is like something I'm beyond interested in, is like playing the groundwork and trying to like build viral things just from concept.
I was
Like
doing that with a friend too, because they had a video hit on TikTok, and we talked about how to make it continue.
mhm. It's weird. It's a very different landscape, and I honestly am I don't want to say annoyed, but I'm really surprised that kind of the dominant voices on TikTok or not on YouTube have chosen to just primarily shit on TikTok
Mhm.
and just view it as, oh, cringy e-boys and, like Jake Paul-esque content, when realistically there are so many creators who wherever however you set up the medium of content creation, there's always going to be innovative people kind of doing things that attract the attention of other kind of creative, innovative people. So I'm unsure why people haven't like chosen to gravitate towards some of those creators and really either talk about what they're doing or showcase it or give it some wider acceptance in the realm of what's considered cool.
It always shocks me. I go on TikTok frequently now, and the creativity in young people reminds me of old YouTube. like it's just so creative. Like one that I saw that was actually really funny and reminded me of an old YouTube video. It's it's like a split video, and it's a cat like playing, and a dude just standing there, and the cat hits the camera, and the dude like um is it's just like his clothes are left, but like he's like destroyed by it. And it was so funny. It's just like it's such a funny video. I think part of the problem is the thing, like you have to see you everybody sees reposts of TikTok videos on Instagram or on YouTube compilations. It negates a cult of personality because it's
Mhm.
just or wait, it's just like do endlessly. There's no, it lacks the channelness. It lacks that element of YouTube or Instagram where you can build a visual channel. I mean, whereas TikTok, I just think it relies on the individual, which is why like what's it called? Attractive people it's necessary to be attractive, or necessary to make it look good visually. Like, because I
I
know children that use it. I know children that like, they make videos, but they don't know how to do it yet. Like, so the videos just go nowhere. Um,
I I wanna as on as as on as many memetic like if we're all building channels and building like voices or like hubs of different people congruing or coming together in some sense. I'm trying to put this idea out on as many memetic nodes, but the I want this quote to be attributed to me. Are you familiar with like the concept of a Brazilian steakhouse, where they essentially like you flip a card and they'll just continuously bring you meat, or the whole premise is just that it's like excessive amounts of very well prepared, like marinated different types of meat, and they'll kind of bring it on like a knife, or bring it on just a spike of some kind and cut it off. There's a very popular chain in the US called Fogo de Chao, and what I see TikTok as is it's like a Fogo de Chao of hot people, just consolidating it into one trend where it's like you go on and you're initially like very drawn in by the fact that that content continuously rises to the top. But the whole concept of a Fogo de Chao is that like at the beginning it's so interesting and you're like you can't take your eyes off of it. You want to just keep eating meat and you're like, this is the best thing ever. I love meat now. But you become numb to it so quickly. And I genuinely see that on TikTok, where so many people I know of all different types of age ranges will watch it and spend like several hours consuming so much content that they become like sick of the media. And they're like, I don't want this anymore. I hate this app.
You know what I think is interesting? Here's a concept. So Nico Lol, the Bernie girl, the OK Boomer girl.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Her downfall on Twitter did not entail a downfall on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's a degree. I think that the agency of the simp is greatly altered medium to medium. The TikTok
That's
simp
without a
will
doubt.
never
Without a doubt.
go. The Twitter simp is like vicious.
That's one thing I talk about in the think piece I wrote about TikTok, that it has some like traction on Medium, which I don't know if you're familiar with that as like a place to,
weird.
It's very like I have so many thoughts on it because I've like brushed with the LA tech and San Francisco like tech media world, and it's a lot of the content on there is fueled by that, and it's fueled by like millennial digital nomads. So it's very like myopic in scope and how they view people actually living their lives. Like no 50-year-old is going to read that if they're not already very much into that culture and be like, oh, this applies to me. It's like there's a lot of stuff about polygamy. There's all it's kind of all over the place, but it's a good like slice of life of like what is the general consciousness of the millennial slash like, is it Gen Y, I think, or Gen X? But the point I touch on in the TikTok piece is that for brands and for celebrities, TikTok is like a safe haven compared to like the agency of Instagram and Twitter. where you can get like flamed to absolute shit, and you're like, fucking go look at ExxonMobil's like company page. Like their Instagram is just, every comment is negative. It's just like, you are destroying the world, etc. They have so few followers. And
I think it has to do with tagging. I think it has to do with the ability to communicate on those sites.
There's definitely still tag, like at the end of the day, you still have like, so like when I see, I guess like Gen Alpha or Gen Z, they have a lot of agency on the app, but it's something in like the internal structure of the user interface that makes it much harder to source content. On Twitter, you like, Twitter is by far the best one at like, you can search direct words in the tweet and it'll match it by keywords, and it won't discriminate based off of like capitalization and like small typos and shit like that. But on TikTok, it's so fucking hard. You have to like either screenshot or download something to go back and find it. But it's so ephemeral. You're just scrolling and it's gone. You get your dose of novelty or like general entertainment. I'm reading some of the stuff. I think it's spot on. The hipster, millennial, and nouveau culture. The Twitter's.
Also, have you read Nick Land?
I was watching one of your videos and saw you had fanged. I don't know how to fucking say that other word, but I have the book. I started reading it like 6 months ago, and have found I like want to put it down all the time whenever I start reading, because it's just it's too far. I feel like there's a reason the academic world likes to cling to things that are like 60 years older. Because it's just easier to digest in terms of cultural theory. This is like too close to what's happening exactly right now that it gets. There will be a point where I finish the book and I feel like I can speak on what I interpret Nick Land to be in its entirety. But
I'm just curious what your take on accelerationism is.
Oh man, I have a lot of hot takes, but I find myself like co-opting academic language for my own means. And like I'm like Slavoj Zizek. I'll just read the Wikipedia article and be like, oh, I understand this concept now.
And time to write a book on it.
Yeah. But I'm really infatuated with the concept. I actually so at I go to university at the University of Southern California. I'm now home though, and there I lead like a think tank. I'm trying to model it off of what is that fucking thing, that the CCRU?
Mm-hmm.
This
That's awesome. Cybernetic Cultural Research Unit. You cut out.
Do you still hear me, or?
No, I can. Yeah.
Okay. I found that concept so like it's so that the cabal of like-minded academics or like thinking people, it has like such connotations throughout history, like magicians or some shit like that. And reading about some of the stuff they were doing was just so wild. But I was able to, because of a connection to this lab, get funding to just like host a bunch of people coming to like talk about memes and talk about internet stuff. And but this is what happens to the internet when you say the phrase CCRU. That's fucking hilarious.
That's my conspiratorial thought all the time. Anytime anything interesting comes up, it's like, nope. Mm-hmm. But go on.
Without a doubt. I've had so many phone calls. I met with people at Google through just like connections at school and saying I was researching the internet. And like the days afterwards, anytime I would tell people about it, my phone would start glitching out when I was talking about Google. And it's like, fucking, I'm sure there are keywords.
Absolutely.
But the idea. Oh, so what my contribution in that echo chamber of people who agree with themselves? I'm getting distracted. I can't look too much at the chat, or else I'll derail myself. I need to limit my meme diet.
But tell me about your CCRU, your version.
Okay, so we have a bunch of people who are like somewhat interested in this stuff, leading different papers and kind of projects. We have. Again? Wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
So
it happened briefly again.
Okay. Pretty much like some people are doing like fandoms and kind of like one girl I know was a prominent fan fiction writer when she was a lot younger. She was like one of the first people to break the Harry Styles, Louis Tomlinson, One Direction kind of love affair, secret love affair, and she's leading basically a small project that's going to build like a I'm blanking on all this. I have too many things, but the project I am leading was just like a historical paper on the idea of accelerationism and how it's been co-opted by varying kind of like political subcultures and really interpreted in all these different ways. And then I was going to try to propose like a way it's being conceptualized, particularly in online communities, which I had this whole idea for doing kind of like a paying people to take like a survey where they would interact with different types of media, like different modes of media consumption. Like you would have some blueprint thing where it was like you were on old Tumblr versus like TikTok or Instagram, and just talk about like how much information one could digest in a period of time. But the notion of accelerationism,
that's a fantastic idea.
The idea I was trying to, I guess, map out is like, I think so much of the doomsday mentality comes from like our brains can only comprehend so much information at once, and all of these things are like upping the ante to keep us on for ad money. And there's a clear effect when you like, if you're someone who's only ever been on Facebook and you go on TikTok, like you feel the difference in how much is being thrown at your face and how engaging and like mind fuckery. I don't know. Yeah, okay. That's
You've seen The
Matrix,
right?
I have seen The Matrix.
So, Zizek mentions that the energy that is being taken from the people by machines is libido. So I'll just give you my brief thought, and I mention this every time there's a live video for some reason. This is like my live video. This is the live video idea because this is the one I want people to think about most, or like because I think this one's important. Accelerationism is a directly Reichian concept. Nick Land is pulling directly from Wilhelm Reich and directly from the concept of orgone when he talks about a fanatical engine of time and acceleration. That idea is directly from Reich. He is the one who established being an engine of drive.
Oh, it's cutting out right now. You're getting to the good part. You need to repeat the whole, like, the last sentence. It cut out for a sec.
But just that the idea of an engine of drive, Nick Land sees it as the fanatical engine of Thanatos. Reich viewed it as orgone, but only a cosmic level drive offers the practicality of an accelerationism, which is beyond just humans. The fact that techno-capital acceleration is occurring correlates directly to death drive. In Reich's view, machines and mechanism are directly products of DOR, deadly orgone. And he even says this in Thirst for Annihilation. Like, it's not like he's hiding it. It's just that nobody reads Reich. So the idea kind of goes out. But it's a the concept of accelerationism is a Reichian concept, which tells me that it's probably right.
All right. I kind of felt coming into this, I feel like a bit of like a fraud thinker because I haven't like done my homework enough. I feel like I haven't gone back and read everything I feel I should, but that's also like an impulse I have with anything I've talked about on my channel. I'll like obsessively try to watch every YouTube video they've ever done and then just like fall flat on my ass and be like, this is not possible in the time limit I've set for myself. But I definitely, from this conversation, want to go read Reich and do him justice. That you are a neo Reich.
Yeah, no, but I mean, everybody that's into him now is like into it for a weird new age reason. They're all kind of crazy new age people. Nobody's dealing with it as like the really it is. But no, I think like what you should probably do is just constantly put out videos. Disregard all of the criteria that you have and just endlessly pump out content. Do you ever watch crazy people's YouTube channels?
A bit. I mean, we can reference this because I want to talk about this person and saw you did like a really fantastic video on Martin Cabello. Like, so much of how you speak is like a way I wish I could make content, because it's like an articulation of these very complex concepts, like aptly referencing kind of the before and where it is now. And I feel like I've kind of built the lens of my channel to be very grounded in the immediate, like grounded in what is like a language anyone who's consumed this content would be able to immediately understand kind of what I'm going for. But the Martin Cabello thing it's so spot on. There's so much like memetic fuckery going on with how he presents ideas, and it's like this pentameter of just nonstop. Oh man, it's something else. I fucking love crazy people's YouTubes.
I'm curious. Have you noticed any of his Cabelloisms have stuck with you? Are there any ones that you say often?
I find, like, based off of the type of person I am, that's like they don't stick with me in the same way. If I am to go digest a lot of the content, I can turn my mind into the viewer of a Martin Cabello, like the school. Like I can go into that world and become a disciple. But I built a technique of just like emptying my mind completely. So whenever I attack one specific node, I'll just like become that for a period of time. And so like Helly Hansen obviously kind of like pops up immediately if I am to like conjure Martin Cabello. There's the Helly Hansen one is just too good. It's Helly Hansen, Linda Helping Hand, the light of a rainbow. I don't know. There's some really fucking funny stuff though. There's so many layers to that.
Hebrew's what? That one I love it. That one sticks with me. I was just watching.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Is that referencing what? I don't know. I feel like this is not the realm of conversation topic I want to delve into. But dude. No, what were you gonna say?
No, I want you to.
No, I'm just curious what that's meant to conjure. Because it's clearly like some Hebrews what is questioning of Judaism. Is he like that? No. Is it very okay?
Just like Adam.
That seems like the norm in that conspiracy community, though.
It's like Adam. He took a bite of his mother's apple. It's like he takes the Christian myth and makes it about the body. It's about ketosis, like the keto diet. That's like his big thing is the keto diet. I know people that did keto because of him, and it worked. I was going to do keto, but what's it called? I was watching a fantastic crazy person YouTube channel yesterday. There's a subreddit that I use sometimes called Me Dizzy or Med Dizzy, which is like medical problems. I just find it fascinating. But it had a video of somebody doing a self-surgery. And I was reading some of the comments because self-surgery is also fascinating. I did one when I was younger, but the guy has like a lipoma, like a tumor, like a benign tumor, but he just fucking this like just. And then it was like people in the comments are like, why is he doing this? Is he on drugs? And it turns out this dude used to be a fucking attorney. He was an attorney, rich California guy. Or no, he wasn't. He might have been like Wisconsin, but I think he went to school in California. He was an attorney. He was involved in like art and music. And then he tried to fuck a teenager. And the government was going after him. So he ran off to Cairo, Egypt. Then left Cairo to go live in Mexico. And he's now like kind of homeless. He's grown out a huge beard and he's become schizophrenic. And his name is like Hank Hogan, I believe. It's something. It's an alliterate name. It's H Hogan. But just I found it super fascinating. TL Warrior Thomas. TL Warrior Thomas. I'm not sure, TL Warrior Thomas, if I recognize you. I'd imagine you're Thomas DeLuca. Are you Suck Inc. or no?
That's there's something very archetypal about
Yes.
going to Egypt as well. There's
Yeah.
I've heard some very wild things from different people who have educated me on their own understanding of our scrambled past as humans. But going to Egypt seems to be a prevalent theme among
Mm.
many a wise man. I
Have you or no, sorry, you go.
the thought I have to share is so like I don't even know what to it came to mind with so I spent a lot of time overseas growing up and in the Middle East actually, and so I'm now back in the U.S. But I've always kind of attributed some of my ability to understand like cultural production to having seen like vastly different human cultures,
Mm.
and then seeing how they communicate their own existence to each other. Some of the different like modes, like Al Jazeera compared to fucking CNN, and how they kind of reconcile the world's existence and articulate countries and stuff like that. But I see something about being like a mentally fragile and then going to many different places and having kind of the memetic norms shift so rapidly. It feels like it would almost make it's like conducive to further mental illness, or like uh,
Mm.
so much of like human communication is beyond language, and switching that rapidly, especially when you're already in this like paranoid,
Mm.
potentially delusional state. It feels like it would only lead to such a thing. Like try
Yeah.
going and listening in a marketplace. Get find a city on each of the time zones and like fly each sequential day and go sit in one of those places. Like, what is the mental experience then? Like, what do you feel like after that, having heard just the the different structures of language and communication? And
Like my girlfriend just made the comment, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen, but I don't know if you ever. And no, I remember you. I remember you, Tom DeLuca. Um, but if you recall, I don't know if you ever, if you know Queen, the band. On their first album, they had a song called "The Fairy Feller's Masterstroke," and that was done by a paint. Was done by a painter who I believe Kristen says is Richard Dad. He went to Egypt, and Horus spoke to him. He then returned home and killed his father. Um, like he was inspired by his experience speaking to the gods of Egypt to kill his father. Um, you know, like to me, there's undoubted, and this is the same. Crowley goes to Egypt, speaks to speaks to the spirits, and writes the Book of the Law. Napoleon goes to Egypt, goes into the pharaoh's chamber, speaks to the little red man, and goes home to conquer Europe. We witness that kind of thing. And then we have Hogan, who goes and cuts his chest open to get rid of a tumor. you know, that's another question, the size of madness. How big a madness can we get? Do you want to be mad like Napoleon, mad like Crowley, or mad like, the bum? Because there's wisdom in both. That's kind of the esoteric concept, is like the wise man can be the greatest king or the lowliest fool. So it's very fascinating. Um,
I find myself,
Let me think.
and
I'm
this
gonna
is,
throw one at you.
oh, you have a question,
No, no,
or
you can
what
go
is it?
first.
You said okay. Wait, speak about Napoleon and race realism. What the fuck? I have so little comprehension of Napoleon's stance on race realism. I'm not enough of a history buff. I'm too addicted to living life and scoffing off everything, the wise tellings of anyone older than me. You're all dumb. I know everything. I'm the best.
This is the way.
um, this is the only way. We must rebel now. We will lead the new world.
If only
So
our generation would.
I can't even comprehend such a thing. What that would even look like. We get a daily memetic allowance. We're
I think
we're
what we're
allowed to
gonna have to do. I think we're gonna need to have kind of intense, disciplined training to get people on this memetic level where they can just create naturally. We have to discipline into people that ability and that memetic sensibility so that they can produce easily. Like, I think that that's one of the major aspects is just a lack of discipline in our generation. Otherwise, because there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of concepts, but not a lot of execution, which I think is unfortunate because the execution makes the concept worthwhile. But have you ever had a paranormal experience?
I plead the fifth. I don't want to talk about this online.
Okay, that's all right. I understand.
I think there's absolutely amazing things that science has only yet to delve their greedy, empirical, grasping, tearing apart paws onto. And I think they have been investigating a lot of this stuff for some time, but we just don't have kind of the. I don't even know how to articulate it. I'm a big like what's that dude? The Stanford, maybe it's MIT or Stanford, like laser guy who did all the ESP experiments.
Russell
Like you can
Targ.
go watch. Yeah, you can watch his TED Talks. All that stuff is like far, far, far more real than most people want to acknowledge.
Mhm.
Like there is empirical data that suggests at least like small changes that can be made upon one's psychic intuitive abilities about different things.
Did you see the
Um,
app that he made?
I had ESP trainer for some
Me
time.
too.
Like
It's awesome. You
this
know what?
was
There's a better one though. I have to say, RV tournament. Try a remote viewing tournament. Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah. I absolutely love that stuff. That's like my to be an aspiring polymathic individual and have like a range of random interests, but a lot of like the more fantastical realms of science and thinking are like it's like candy. I can't get enough of it. I have a large proclivity towards the conspiracy, but I also try to like back it up through
I agree.
rigorous research.
And I agree. I
Um,
think, I think that honestly, that is the ultimate expression of the generation. That is the ultimate generational expression to be silly. Like, we are all Aquarians in that sense. And so there's already a proclivity toward speaking of which, we have the colors of Aquarius on right now, the light blue and the light pink. But yeah.
I actually I want to share this thought before it escapes me, but uh, touching back on the note of like discipline and memetic production, that's one aspect of TikTok that I find like very infatuating to consume the content is some of these like children are so in tune with like what it means to maybe not act as like a leader, but act as like a memetic node to their peers where it's just nonstop. They will upload like 20 times a day and it's all content that is like hyper relatable and
Mm.
very just translates so well because it's these like shared cultural experiences that build the sentiments of generations, and they're just like constantly outputting it to a network where we have data now to back up the fact that this has existed throughout all of time when you have humans living anywhere. Influencer quotation marks, I don't know what that means, but what one manipulators. Yeah, I mean, I think that
The
these are all we're
influencing
just like
machine.
the one note was there's a particular influencer in the hype house I think will be acknowledged to be much more creative and interesting than like do you know the name Charlie D'Amelio? She's she's
I
like
I think I've heard it. Yeah.
she's like the Britney Spears of TikTok. She is like the name. She's I think the
Okay.
most followed creator on the platform. She's the it girl. Goes on all the talk shows, like does dances,
Mm.
and it's fucking like 20 million views in the course of a day. Like PewDiePie's equivalent to TikTok, and
Mm.
they've formed a coterie of creators in LA in a mansion called the Hype House, similar to like the Clout House, and there's a bunch of different figures who are there for very particular reasons because it's been crafted very deliberately to have like figures of all different kinds who represent different niches.
Mm.
Still very much in the mainstream. There's no like hyper, there aren't really like gamers. There aren't a number of different assets of internet culture, but one in particular I feel is very under-acknowledged. Just looking into their backstory is this girl or woman named Avani, who used to be like a almost professional level gymnast. And having met people who are professional athletes, it's like the amount of discipline it takes to be at that level to compete in anything, even if you like get to like D6 football, to be able to go to practice every day and reach a level of proficiency. It's sorry, I looked at the chat. Now I'm distracted again. But that to me is indicative of why they are where they are, is that not only are they like within the norms of conventional beauty, but they are also like, it takes some weird degree of discipline to be a content creator at that scale. If you can release 10 very high quality edited videos over the course of a day, you're operating at like psychopathic CEO levels of production, you know? But that's one.
I think
I'll
that was,
say,
that
if y'all
was Crowley's aim.
that was Crowley is the architect of TikTok. He's in the founding premise.
Honest to God,
It's
if we have drug, sex, and rock and roll, TikTok embodies two of those really well.
yeah. I tried to have like slight drug use at some point. Maybe the drug. I know you seemed critical of this in your Coomer video, but like the wide dialectic about dopamine and how that relates to like the varying things of user interface and the types of content. I personally am at least slightly in that school, just because I have like I study cognitive science. My initial another pinpoint that pushed me into this field of study was a fascination with like TikTok's user interface and how it like facilitated the types of dialogue I was seeing around me. But I definitely know there are direct correlations with certain like neurotransmitters in the way you can present information and elicit certain feelings. I wouldn't go as far to say like some of the dopamine arguments, but I find them fascinating.
I know somebody who does something similar. He has studied cognitive science as well, but he started his own art school. My girlfriend actually goes there, and I've had the pleasure to talk to this gentleman, Anthony Whatitis, a Trump loyal painter, fixated on making the most effective paintings. And it's really fascinating. You know, his work, honestly, I'm getting ready to read his book, but extremely fascinating. Anthony Whatitis.
If you can send me that name on Discord later,
Yeah.
I'd love to like with any of these names. Really, it's I'm now reading the chat again, so I feel bad neglecting any of it. You should look at Instagram, Disney Channel Kids. Shangs1001. I definitely in one of my videos I talk about how like they crafted the Logan Paul, Jake Paul-esque figure to be the new, the new Disney Channel star.
Disney.
It just like taking the concept of Disney, whatever, like the idyllic childhood. There's some weird ass shit with that, but
it decentralizes the Illuminati, doesn't it? It like there's no more Mickey Mouse Club.
I mean, there's a notion of something about the notion of decentralizing. This is probably like a very circular argument, but like the idea of decentralizing something to me means something has to pull it apart. There has to be some inciting incident or force or like applied directive. So the notion of like decentralizing anything could at the same time be like a deliberate choice to just pull something apart by another means. So, and that to me is more indicative of like a unified effort. So like by no means do I think the fact that we're now hyper democratized in terms of media, does that mean we're not still under the influence of a lot of deliberate dark room handshake conversations?
I honestly disagree. I think that we are heading, and it's not necessarily democratization, but it is a certain decentralization. Like, though TikTok, of course, does have a degree of shadowness, I think that we're reaching a point where it's just like we have TikTok blockchain that is to come, where every TikTok star is of themselves TikTok.
I mean, that's the whole notion of like I'm really infatuated this is another instance of me sort of co-opting academic language for my own means, but the notion of metamodernism and like the infinite in one, the like creator as everyone, like a sequential, like a following of postmodernism in which, you know, we've torn apart all grand narratives, so we have all these nodes making their own elaborate world building meta narrative. Like that's what I see having a profile as being. You're like constructing a world in a sense, and you are the abdicator of morality and what is just in your world. You do the blocking, you do the adding.
And I
I
think
don't
the
know.
question too, but I think this is the difficult element of it, because the profile. I think the unfortunate element is this, and you'll notice it actually in my accounts. I do something to avoid it, but a big problem. Like, I don't know if you know the magazine that I've helped work on, Asafal Headless.
I do not.
Bataille has this idea about the acephalic man, and I did a whole comic on this concept. But like the the head only is ego, and the profile picture is just your face. Usually, it's just ego. It removes you from your body, removes you from
Mm-hmm.
your will, your acephalic, powerful form. So in a way, it can be almost the very opposite. It can sap all of your power away. But I do agree. The profile is certainly a moral arbiter. But the question is, if you have the fictionalized ego as the head, like my profile pictures, at least now, tend to be full body or art of me instead of me. I'm not interested in like placing my face as the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also into more. I'm not taking video. We're not using videos of me as much. I'm gonna try to focus more on visual only, because I think it was too egoistic. I think that I played too much of a part, but I also think it'll pay back in the future when people look back. And people will think, "Oh, what does he look like?" and then go and see it.
Mm-hmm. I I've been thinking a lot about this is kind of taking this realm of dialogue and like bringing it into my own like terminology of like what is conducive to virality. And I think the easiest way I'm seeing it happen is if you are one who is already, you know, likable or representative of a particular sentiment, if you are just to like go live stream and embody this persona continuously, it like gravitates other people. As long as you're, you know, going on MySpace and doing that isn't going to have the same effect as going on TikTok right now and doing it. But I found like if I were to make what it is videos, I feel like I've already attracted a particular style of viewer by doing kind of like edited video essays. But if I were to only focus on doing personality based content, I would likely find, I can't say with my particular style, but with most people, I find that if you have a very like grasping persona, I can associate face and body with whatever it is you represent. You tend to have a lot more viral success just because it's so like graspable. It
So
just depends on.
how could meme analysis make a viral video? How could we make a viral video?
I feel like the framework has been laid out by another entity. I always wonder when recording anything or having any pictures or anything taken of me by any means what it will go to. So I was thinking I don't know if I should have talked on Meme Insider, but I have a lot of thoughts on the way they I would consider them one of the most prominent people working in this wider field of talking about digital culture. And I have a lot of thoughts about how they've chosen to run what they've built. I admire it a lot, but I also think they have like grossly misappropriated resources and time and energy that they could be the size of Vice, not Vice in its fullest form, but they could be Vice on its come up right now if they were to focus on particular mediums as opposed to releasing a magazine. So I think they have already touched into what the layout should be and how one should, the degree to which one should interact with meme culture, which is taking like a very it's this weird, there's this really weird thing about analyzing memes that I've struggled with a long time, as I have like we have some like private videos where we on the channel where we tried to touch on some of this stuff, and I hated them because I felt like I wasn't good enough at embodying the sentiment. But you almost need to like engage with it in a way that you wouldn't typically with other texts, where something about meme culture is so participatory and it's so grounded in it being humorous and like this very freeing, like not the confines of academic analysis tend to destroy it. Like you hold on to it and you're like killing it in the process. But the way you have framed your videos is like such a engaging in it. This was like exactly when I was trying to concept out this series, like you are the realization of this like fever dream of several years ago. But what was so where how you do it? I guess so. Meme Insider's kind of laid out a format in a sense, because a lot of their posts will go viral, and they've had videos go viral in how they interact with it. But it would require touching on whatever the trending topic is and doing it in such a way that it doesn't isolate anyone, but it also gives just enough to like get them interested in where is this going? Where can I like come for more? So it would be very peculiar in how you frame the language and what you reference in it. It would need to be like simultaneously accessible, but also providing them with something like a breadcrumb of something new to keep them engaged and be like, this is something I want. But I think working in the space right now is beyond the first step. Like we're still on the adoption curve. In that initial phase where no really big players have taken like a large stake of the market. So there's such like potentiality to become one of the go-to voices or faces. Did you follow at all? Like That Is the Plan. Anthony Fantano had a meme analysis channel for some time.
Yeah.
Or a series. And I guess I can't remember all of the name. One of them was like Behind the Meme, but Emperor Lemon, Imp Lemon, did something about this and how like there have been historical instances of channels kind of like killing memes quicker. Like that's a lot of what Meme Insider was founded off of, was this notion of like the instability of the meme market and what acknowledging a meme to the normie populace does to it on a wider sense. So in speculating about what it takes to be viral in meme culture, there's a lot of like back and forth language where it's like simultaneously you have to be like hyper aware of what you're doing while you're doing it. If Anthony is aware, it's not good music anymore.
I think I think that Fantano, Fantano's probably better at it than some, but like I find so many meme analysis channels are meme reviews. They're not analyzing it. It's really just this is this. It's really a summary. It's a summary with just the most basic, like, this is from this show. It's not ever like, it never actually grasps what is being done. Fantano at least is funny about it though. Like, I don't know. I find a lot of the channels, I don't understand the audience interest in something. I think, who was it? Who has the very colorful backgrounds?
Was that that might have been Behind the Meme, who got kind of like gutted.
They were a jerk, yeah. Yeah, their channel's garbage.
There's a new one now I've been seeing. It might be Lessons in Meme Culture.
Yeah, also garbage. Terrible.
Yeah, I never like I try to be like hyper deliberate with my language because of the way I'm trying to frame what it is like willing to engage with any media and analyze it from the mode of like what constitutes online success. So I try to like prevent myself from putting any moral judgment on like the quality of content. Maybe not the quality, but like I try to step away from being like Jake Paul's awful content or like the Dobre brothers, as I said in this other video. Because if you like take the means of viral success as the predicator of like what is effective, you can then look at like hyper specify different modes of like trying to figure out why it is successful in the memetic sense. Big channels like
but I'm based on this, like, you know, I'm functioning on like the majority of people are stupid. So it's not like
Yeah.
I can say content is bad, but also see why it's popular. I just think
Mhm.
people have terrible taste.
Yeah, I like as a person, I definitely like agree with the sentiment, but for some reason, like my auto default when online is to like separate and kind of like exist in this very like detached mode of not. I don't know. I kind of want what it is to like my dream for what it is to be like this sort of like media output with multiple series, and it's kind of like an overarching entity that would act as like some sort of I don't want to say like I was using the term like thoughtful media a while ago, like more critical media, but I haven't really figured it out exactly. But following in the footsteps of like BuzzFeed, but just like not as exploitative. But I I definitely think this like so there on an objective like my personal opinion level, like meme all these things that lessons in meme culture and behind the meme are definitely like exploitative and not very good meme content. It's just kind of like not hurt, it's hurting the culture in a sense. It's and it's I can see it
Absolutely.
as like a money bags type of operation where you know you're just
Mm.
pinpointing yourself to viral things with minimal integrity for how you would set it up.
And people used to accuse me of that. Like people used to accuse my channel of being like ambulance chasing and stuff. Like we were only going after what was popular. But I really don't think so. Um, I've never done a video on something I didn't think was important. I've never done like I don't analyze memes that I don't think have any valuable insight. Like sometimes I'll do repetitive videos because sometimes a point I think is more important than another. But like, there are videos that I've made which didn't get any views, but I still think are like some of the best videos and the best ideas that I've had. Like my Thanos video, one of the lowest views, but I think it had the best concept. Um, so like I think that chasing virality does not. I think it negates Big Chungus analysis was almost going to be made, and it might happen still because there is significance to it, but it's still being born. Um, but I think that chasing virality implies a weakness of content, and it's much better to have a foundational content that
Mm-hmm.
is essentially your own.
That was definitely I still like I feel like a fraud of a content creator because I like haven't consistently put out content and wouldn't like if you ask me if I like I don't know, I've had this identity crisis in many points in my life where it's like I have a very small YouTube following, but people will um like if I tell them about it, characterize me as a YouTuber, and I by no means like identify as I'm a YouTuber. Like make sure you acknowledge that when you recognize who I am as a person. But there's I'm missing I missed the point. There's something about the pursuit of growing an audience that's like very. Oh, okay. So what I was gonna say was like in the identity of our thing, like we did a Logan Paul video right after that was prominent, and I'm sure if I had my way at the time, I would be like, I want to be one of the first videos on Logan Paul or whatever. And there's this weird identity crisis with anything that tries to be very like with a purpose at the same time as growing it, because like it's a large allotment of time and resources to make any video, and very few people are in the place where they can do it without getting some sort of financial recuperation. And then like obviously we're just going to get to some abstraction of capital and be like, there's some moral reasoning for trying to pursue virality or trying to like up your viewership to pass the threshold to be doing what you really want to be doing, and then you're just chasing a high. I don't know. There's so much shit. What do you think? I'm going off on a real tangent
I
here with
found
the
that
integrity.
like the video I put out the Garfield video, and that one is the biggest video I've done yet. That one it has the most views.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it wasn't even necessarily in the midst of Garfield being popular or Gorefield, but it came a little bit after. but it got picked up because it was recommended. It was recommended after some of the big Garfield videos, and so it did super well, and it just did well over the course of like a week, and then it was down back to normal. But I did a few videos I did that went up, and the problem is that what I used to do, but now what I've had the last month has been the most successful month ever for the channel. Like we've gotten like over like we're near like 2,000 views. I mean 2,000 subscribers and like 50,000 more views than usual. It's crazy. And it's due to the Doomer recommendations, and the Doomer, like it's in, YouTube is doing it for us now. Before, all the views would come from Reddit. Reddit was the only way I would get any views. And I think it was a mistake because I didn't grasp the importance of absolutely sticking to a video a week for YouTube to even care about you at all. But because I've done it every week, and literally it has gone up and up and up. It's the highest view count every week now. Putting out a video every week, it's that easy.
That was
so.
Yeah, that you can continue. I felt like I was interrupting there, but
no, that's it.
Okay, that is like having spoken with people who have either worked at entities and design, like I have like a loose connection to some people at YouTube, and that's the one video a week or uploading with regularity is definitely like all their platform fucking cares about. They want to, this is my conspiracy mind, but they want to kind of like make content creators very consistently making things because it's worth them as an investment. They don't want someone to be like a 2-hit wonder. Like Bill Wirtz was a weird exception because he would upload so rarely but put immense amounts of effort into his content. There's like a weird thing there. But if you have any regularity, that's like what the algorithm tends to favor. And I found that like with my channel as well, was when I cared about this a lot when I first started and hadn't had any taste of what relative virality might look like. And once I hit that, it was this weird chasing the dragon thing, and having like if you look at the channel, there's like large periods of irregularity, and this is the most consistent I've ever been is the past 3 weeks. But having like gained all this knowledge, by all means, going like weekly or even like splitting it up, posting as much as you can is like what you kind of have to do for YouTube to view you as a valuable asset and knock you up in the algorithm. It's pretty fucked, but it's also just like how they play the game. And then like trending topics is another thing. Clearly, I think the Umer memes have reached like a popular consciousness that has like definitely.
Well, it's interesting too because we get a wholly different kind of comment now. There's a very different means of interacting that's occurring now. In the past, comments were just absolutely different. But now there's a distinct type, and something I've noticed that happens with popular videos is that people comment with the purpose of other people reading their comment. They don't comment for the person who made the video, which is really odd. It's really odd to see that because it becomes like a little medium in itself for like-minded people.
This is maybe I'll go off on a side tangent because I feel for some reason compelled to articulate like some of the processes that go into how we've created content, but just on like a micro trend with that, there's like a whole, once a channel surpasses a certain amount of viewership and it's expected that the creator doesn't read the comments anymore, it becomes this whole new mentality that one comments and posts with. Like I did this experiment like a year ago where I was just trying to rack up on as many popular videos as possible. Did you see that? It's like Justin Yang. I can't remember his name, but it's like the little ninja icon. Meme Insider did something on him. Some other people did some stuff on him, but he's like one of the most upvoted comments people. But I did an experiment where I was just trying to comment on as many popular videos as possible. And I'd like hop onto a bunch of alt accounts and give it an initial boost. And it would reach like 10K or whatever. and people then can use that as marketing, where you can be like, hey, check out my video, or like there's all these weird scams. But the other side note, which I find, I feel like the style of content I've been I have been making would it build a more niche audience, which I see is like what y'all have done. You have like an actual sustainable like core thing. But in my whole notion of even building the channel, I knew I was building it off of kind of a gimmicky strategy where if we, so most recently we made before Lyrical Lemonade, we made a video about Jeff's barbershop, and he commented and did a reaction to it in one of his most recent videos. And by proxy, we've like linked our video with his, and now we're just siphoning off people of his audience and taking like it was just a weird like growth hacking strategy I thought would be amusing, to just like force people who want a particular type of content to like go to a channel where they would then by means have to be exposed to like 20 other channels we deem as like successful content. And I felt like over time, if I were to consistently bludgeon at it, it would build a consistent audience, but I just like wasn't consistent. I like we were like once a month, once every 2 months beforehand, but now I'm like I'm a driven human. I don't know what it will constitute though, because like doing it once a week is like very draining. I even like I have, he might be in the chat now, Blake, if you're here. Howdy. I'm like working with an editor now, and I'm trying to like actually sort of formulate a business, but I don't know if I am business savvy enough of a human to do it. I don't know. But our channel has a very like weird growth strategy. So even though we have like 14K or whatever, I feel like you actually have at least 1,000 to 3,000 people who like care significantly about the production of meme analysis. I feel like whatever we did has like attracted a bunch of people who are interested, but I don't know if they have that much like loyalty to the direct like output or what exactly, because it's such a weird niche.
I think that part of it is that my videos are like, I think that what happened, I think there's two types of viewers for the most part. I think that there's meme people, and then I think that there's weird people. I think that those are the two types, and I think that the weird people are committed. I think that the meme people only subscribe if it's content that they find even slightly amusing, which is why like Garfield was funny. I was very fortunate that I chose this avenue to analyze it, which was the commie angle. And enough people think communism is funny that they subscribed. That's the only reason. And then with Oomers, Doomers, Coomers, Bloomers, whatever, it's because anything that says that word is funny. That's just true. How it is. It's like if it says it, it's funny. So I think that is like the only, like the rest of the people that are into it because they are into young occultism, philosophy, like, and then because it's very bizarre because it turns off a ton of people who are into that stuff too. Thank you, Hermes Quadragustus. Like,
you can just tell from that fucking name, man.
Exactly.
I know exactly what that's referencing.
Like, it's crazy, you know, how different our groups, how different the subscribers are. Hello, Emily. I think like it's crazy how you can split a fan base. And, you know, obviously there are more meme people. And I think that it's interesting. Our videos haven't done that well memetically, but they've done very well in the philosophical area for sure. But that's because I was involved with that for much longer, like in the Freud, the Sigmund Freud's dank meme stash on Facebook, which is like over 100,000 now. First member, like I was friends with Elliot from the beginning, and so like I was always around this memetic psychoanalysis group, but it didn't happen until, you know, I didn't start it until my own work. And I made the first meme analysis in like early 2017, and I got really angry actually. I was enraged by something, and it made me want to make this video. because I'd written an essay on it, but it didn't really get nobody really read it because it was just on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But it was about the Apollonian Dionysian dichotomy of Pepe and Wojak and their archetypal nature. And then I saw the book Kill All Normies. And I
Have
was
you
like,
have you read Angela Nagel?
not all. I haven't read the book, but I've read other Zero books. And I'm thinking
Okay.
about publishing with them. But I was just enraged, like somebody else is things and getting popular, because I was always like that one day I'm going to do this and it's going to do well. And then I'm like, I guess I have to make it. So I made it just to be able to say, just like proof of concept, like this is real. I made this back then. I've been doing it forever. So I've been fortunate to get it started with Josh. We started it like right around Christmas time last year, and just did it.
I had a similar response to Kill All Normies as well, and I've read it and have
Mm.
man, I a lot of like my desire to content output has definitely been fueled by like a sort of dissatisfaction with the misrepresentation of some of it. Like I particularly felt how there's a very like prevalent narrative, especially just if we want to say the media has like a particular bias towards any political side in the US or anywhere. More recently, like it's a more neoliberal slant for most things. And they've built like a narrative of kind of what memeing communities all are online. And to anyone who's actually gone and seen the diversity of what a meme can mean and how many contexts it exists in, and how there are also these people who will criticize, alt-right meme circles and at the same time like repost their own memes on Facebook and not see how it's just a wider like form of communication happening everywhere right now. I felt I was really upset by that because it was just like this gross misrepresentation of like what is actually happening, the wider trend here. And
They're terrified. They're terrified.
I just get so frustrated when it's like from people who are meant. So like Angela Nagel is an academic. I've met plenty of academics who claim to study digital culture and just like dip their toes into like what is feminism in a tech company. That's digital culture. They'll qualify that as digital culture. And I by no means like all these things have importance in their own ways, but the fact that most universities, very, very few universities actually study digital culture in any facet, yet I'll meet freshmen at university who will tell me like, hey, I just submitted a paper to my English class about TikTok. Like there needs to be younger people who are more natively understanding this stuff, trying to it's a weird...
Like, there's a meme class actually at a university in London, and they reached out to me. Mm-hmm. They used my videos to help teach it. Like, there's nothing out. There's nothing about it. Nobody's doing it. But it's terrifying how people just do not understand it. You know who I think provides the perfect display of this ignorance? Sam Hyde, $1 Million Extreme. The media coverage around Sam Hyde just shows like they have no idea about the internet. None. Also, UAlt or EWH Alt. Zero Books is subscribed to us, and I've been getting ready to write a book for them, but I'm not sure yet.
I have some connections to those circles. Are you familiar with K-Hole or Normcore?
Mm-hmm.
So yes. I just by chance and like maybe you could psychoanalyze my own impulse here, but I like enter these rage-induced states where I'll just be like reaching out to people randomly. I wouldn't say that's how I reached out to you. Actually, it might have been. I feel like I'll enter a state where I'll either be very scornful of the network of people also moving in the same direction, or I'll be very amicable and I'll be like, clearly if I'm to rationalize this, I want to talk to as many people as possible and share ideas and further my own ideas about these things. And but I inadvertently reached out to one of the co-founders of K-Hole. They're just the Normcore group is how they're like commonly known to anyone in the know. But by proxy of that, I've been like very tangentially involved or just talked to a lot of people in this like millennial nouveau art world kind of media, kind of meme channel, but it's like very woke woke not in the like political sense, but like actually like hyper self-aware, memeing about all these things. And Zero Books is like right up that alley as well. Like Mike Watson, The Left Can Meme. I've been trying to read that book, but I honestly have found it to, again, sort of misrepresent meme culture, IMO.
Yeah,
but
the left. I'm going to be honest. The left cannot meme yet.
yeah,
they can't do
it's
it yet. Not at all.
it's so frustrating. In certain respects, I think everyone can meme, but the idea that they're winning, if there's a political meme battle between two sides, there's a guttural simplicity of a lot of the like logical, the way arguments are structured by the right that make it so much easier to appeal to the general populace. It's like so much easier to boil down. It's wild, and it's like
I'm always
you go ahead.
Always advocating for an ignorant left. Like, we need to have, if leftism is to have any means of survival, it's going to have to fucking give up on being theory strong, and it's going to have to establish itself as a spiritual outlet, which is the huge mistake. Materialism is a fucking joke. Mm-hmm. I really like, communism is just so long dead. The aesthetics are just completely empty.
It's kind of cringe, like, to be honest.
It really is.
Mark Fisher was the greatest hope, honestly.
Exactly, and it's the fact that nobody's upholding the important aspects of Fisher is just, there's no hope at this point, honestly. The only hope is going to be through magic. Strong magic. Fisher and Nick Land. I love that as like I love the intellectual world memes. I feel like they're so those are pretty good. Maybe a professor of mine was like furious that I was on Justin Murphy's show. He was like, "You just destroyed your potential as an academic. Like, you had good ideas. Why would you do that? You just threatened everything." And it's like, I'm not going to be an academic. That's worthless. Like,
I'd say I like the qualification of like rogue academic, but at the same time, like the aesthetic of being an academic right now is kind of cringe as well. It's like, not
who would want to be this whole. Or, it's very empty. How can, I know, Emily, it's like, how can one say, you're going to be radical, you're going to be interesting, but you commit to a hierarchy? And I mean,
a really poorly established one that's like exploitative, and it's so well documented because you put all these very like critically minded people through a fucking regimented caste system where they're supposed to jab at each other like dogs. It's fucking like, it is built to self-implode, and it has been self-imploding continuously.
But you look at the president, and I'm not a major critic of anything for the most part, but the Donald is evidence that hierarchies are fiction, that there is no real hierarchical authority, no legitimacy to a hierarchy. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that this is what David Lynch was getting at when he said that, like, Donald Trump will go down as one of the greatest presidents. I think that after this, we will never go back to normal. Every hierarchy will be led memetically. It'll be the most popular reality star. That'll be it. We'll have these, entertainment presidents, entertainment, leaders. And I think that's a good thing.
I said this, I feel like I was starting to embrace the internet intuitive side that I was breeded on, like looking at deep web, dark web, dank web type things when I was younger. But when like Trump announced his candidacy, I was like, say the tides of chaos, let this happen. I was like jokingly very pro-Trump initially because I thought it was fucking hilarious. I was like, this feels like how America should be characterized right now, that we have
so
funny.
Much. It's still funny.
But I was saying, like, the Kanye thing feels sequential. I know it's like reasonably, it's so stupid, but I would fucking find it so funny if we were we get a Kanye like serious contender for a party. He's
not joking. No.
He's following the footsteps.
He is going
of what
to be president.
Yeah, I mean, he's following the footsteps. Like, you do the conversion to religion if you're planning to run you do like the refinding Christianity if you want to win over the middle of the country. It's fucking like I a part of me that's like I view myself as like a strategic weapon that can be aimed at particular genres. Like I've been very interested in politics, but I also know how like divisive and very like vitriolic that as a medium can get. So I try to like stay away from it as a mainstay. Though
I find people don't enjoy and will not enjoy my commentary on politics because I view it as theater. You have to view it as theater. It's not legitimate. There's no, and people might criticize it, there's no connection to reality. It's like something, an important point that I find is like in religious circles, the problems of government are so much simpler because it just gets done. Like the organization is secondary to the spiritual element, and that is how any legitimate new form will follow. Like Fisher knew that. That's why it's acid communism. It's psychedelics and spirituality that are primary. Government means nothing. That's why it's so odd. I don't see how communism has any hope now because its only tenets are materialistic. Nobody cares about material, especially now. So if you want to understand politics, you have to remove yourself entirely and view it as theater. It's the only way. And nobody wants to hear about that. They want to get angry. They want to feel happy. They want to have a side to pick. But it's like you don't pick a side in a movie. You don't pick a side at a play. You just watch it, and you can see more plays will be written like. I think it's very foolish to get invested in something. Absolutely, it's lag over. That's why I much prefer poetic philosophy. Go on, sorry.
This is interesting. I'm reading the lag over comment. It's such a weird thing as I like in framing kind of like what I'm trying to do over. I have such a weird like disassociative thing with YouTube and creating anything, but I am like trying to build something and build a larger platform, and like the PR side of my mind that understands the forever sea of the internet knows there are just particular realms you have to like step very carefully because there's a lot of motivated individuals who, if they see you are not pushing a particular agenda, will fuck you over in ways that are just very inconceivable. But it's a weird thing. I find like I want to be able to, on What It Is, talk about political YouTubers. Like I am planning on talking about a number of creators who I view as like varying figures of like the online left and online right. And I'm still like mentally struggling on how to even step into that pond carefully to not alienate anyone. Because my like ultimate goal stepping back would be able to be like to look at the channel as a sort of like glossary of these varying genres and be able to like step into something as an outsider and really like look at what composites the food genre, what composites like Twitch live streaming culture. But it's such a weird thing because we've like with politicized media, it's like we want to hurt something. We want to like there's some impulse of like victory or so, we want the people to submit to us based off of our viewpoint. And it's just this Sisyphean, how do you say that word? You know, the thing where you're pushing the rock up the hill
Sisyphean.
And it keeps, yeah. It's you never win. You never win. You just make people angry at you, and you get angry yourself. All the world, we are the players. What a great revelation! I love this. I love the criticality. I like getting like shit on online.
Well, no. Like, I think it's funny that they would think that that I'm implying that it's revelatory. The fact that I'm utilizing Freud primarily. Freud has the great line, which is that everywhere I've gone, I find poets have been before me. And anybody that knows me or that follows like the Instagram knows that poetry is the primary thing that I do. I have no pretenses about any kind of newness to my ideas. Like, in fact, the whole point of it is to be arcane and esoteric and to bring that to the fore. I'm disinterested in anything that's claiming to be new. I'm interested in synthesizing old and new, old and current, I would say. But but also with the politicizing, I think that the cure is legitimate humor and having a very strong ideological foundation in yourself, because then they can't criticize you. They can say like, "Oh, you're this or you're that," but you can point and say, "No, I'm not. Look at what I've done." Like nobody could call me. People actually, somebody did. Somebody used to call me a fascist, but it's like the vast
Hmm.
majority of my work centers on Reich, which is he is the greatest anti-fascist thinker. The fact that I also utilize Nick Land doesn't mean I'm a dark enlightenment person. Like that's why it's so bizarre. People are always like, "Ah, you're this, you're that, you're that." It's so
Hmm.
stupid. I agree, Shangs. There is a stigma about being New Age, about being religious, but it doesn't mean that it does not. I'd rather be called a ridiculous fool for believing in that than pursued as some kind of infidel for believing in some different form of politics than somebody else. Because at least there's a legitimacy to being a religious fool. There's no legitimacy for dying on a hill for some idiotic cause. Like so many of the politics now exist only online. They have no corresponding real form. It's just memes.
That's oh man, that's definitely a very very true thing. To I had some other series of thoughts that I wanted to touch on, so we can step away from politics, but it might have been about politics. It was something about popular content. Ah,
Yeah, my
I keep
bad. I
blinking
didn't. I
on it.
didn't mean. I didn't want to. I hope it's not like. Yeah. Hopefully, we're not endangering
No, no,
our
no. But by no means. I
livelihoods.
feel like it's such a weird thing though. I just engaging like I one of like the strategies I'll utilize when trying to like understand any fan base or understand like why content is particularly successful. I'll just like mass read comments or read threads on particular people, and it's it's a weird thing when I don't know. We're outputting so much. I can't even. I've like completely disoriented myself. I had like
I
four
have a
different
good.
trains of thoughts that. Here you go. Give
I
me a
have a good
direction.
question. So, I was talking to my friend recently, and I don't even know the name of the guy, but there's a guy who developed a kind of prophetic algorithm which just reads all of the texts, like all of the tweets, all the posts made, analyzes what words are being utilized and at
Mhm.
what rate, and uses that to get an insight on the collective unconscious. Um, I think that would likely be the best means of like grasping, you know, if you even just on one video, if you just see which words are being used the most, you can grasp the influence the video had.
Mhm. There's in like a series I really really want to bridge into at some point, and I've been like obsessed with as a concept for like multiple years at this point. Is this notion of just like crafting virality from nothing. And I have like something in the works in reference to like the TikTok creator I was talking about earlier, but I would love to like completely engineer a meme that became as dominant as like Tide Pods or Pepe or something along those lines. And I feel like using tools like that would probably be the what is that?
Mm.
Team briefing 2016 honors. Uh, would probably be the one of the initial steps. Do you know the name of that person? Because I feel like I saw something. There's like a performance artist in New York that uh, his name's like might be Gentle Virus, but I feel like he was alluding to something of the sort in something he was talking
Mm.
about with like
Mm.
widespread like memetic viruses and programs collecting information from all the I don't know. That's it's a common theme now in like the avant-garde of creation.
Well, here's another point. I have this form, like a data collection form for analyzing memes. Like anybody could fill it out. And I think that eventually we're going to find like which months, which colors are popular in, which animals, which words, times of year, and so on. Like I have no doubt that there are seasons and kind of zodiacal influences, cultural influences that give us popular forms at certain times. So you could even time it to get the meme to be popular, by using color, animal, name, and at what point of the year.
This is definitely building off this point, but like I've been really fascinated by astrology communities online and kind of like logical explanations for the predominance of like behavioral traits through people born at different times. And it gets me into conspiratorial stuff again, because it's like, I know I'm not I'm not I am the smartest person who's ever lived. I'm telling you right here. No, I know I'm like not that fucking smart. There's so many people who have probably come to these conclusions so much earlier and have existed for so much longer. I just don't understand how there can't be, like, if we're aggregating all the data in the world, how this hasn't been figured out 1,000 times over. But I'm sure there's very like reasonable explanations for so much human behavior if you get access to all the data. Like
I agree.
Part of me views it as very unethical, in the sense that like I would feel bad if I was like in the NSA and have access to like the entire US's call records at the same time. Another part of me would be like fascinated. I would love to see like the trends and be like, that's like the scientists in their
which zodiac sign has the most millionaires, which has the most people in prison, like, and so on. What's your sign, by the way?
I am a Virgo. What are you?
Okay, interesting. I'm a Sagittarius.
Okay.
Do you know your like moon and rising?
I have them somewhere. I try to like. Do you have CoStar? There's an app that like oversimplifies it all. That's been like its entrance into CoStar. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like spending too much time on it, but I do love like that as like a litmus test for the willingness to entertain things outside of scientific dogma. Because like I don't know. I see so much. Do you know the podcast Red Scare?
Mm-hmm.
I think touching back on like the politicized media, like it's impossible not to touch on to some degree, because like everyone in any realm of like online thought has some association to something at this point. But they have this quote I think about a lot, and I don't know if it's like I see it mirrored in a lot of other things, but it's like the notion of like being an optimistic pessimist or a pessimistic optimist. And I feel I definitely look at things. I think internally I am very negative, but I try to see like a brighter side in a lot of the things I output in my language. I just wonder what the legitimacy to that is as a notion, because I can see it in a lot of different writings, the kind of like viewpoints. But I don't know. The internal part of me like definitely views so much with like such a angry, like scornful, like bitter type of mindset. Not like I'm not like I'm a school shoot type incel type person, but I feel like I tend to have a more negative outlook when I look at something, and then I try to like using abstraction step beyond to something more. I don't know.
I'm extremely positive. I'm in love with fucking being alive. I enjoy pretty much everything that I see. But I think that's it's a skill to overcome
The suffering.
It's important to overcome the kind of childish suffering. It's very childish. It's very adolescent, really. And to return to childhood, to return to a infantile joy, which is part of the Crowleyan regime, is to, and the Nietzschean is you go. I think it's camel, lion, child. You become the child again at the end, and then you can embrace the world.
I'm just looking at what Hermes just put in there. I definitely got to look into that. That feels like some like deep internet, very real shit. But at the same time, there's an immediate connotation that comes with that. I really want to read that. But I completely agree. I feel like that's the times I feel like I have transcended kind of some of the states of being are when I am able to like experience through the lens of just like unadulterated joy and like the power of life. You appreciate. But so the internet tends to foster like the negativity as well. Like it's hard not to be egotistical, especially like I see this a lot with commentary channels. Like I would say in some sense any like online intellectualization is in its own way commentary, because there's not really like facts, or no one's speaking from a hyper scientific, like that's an abstraction in its own right. But I see so much like rampant ego, like with the whole iDubbbz thing that happened recently. Like it's been more of an outing of just like how many commentary channels there are in existence, because they're all just like drawn like flies to be the first one to have the word in on something they all iterate the same ideas on. And it's like if you take a very bird's eye approach, you see like trends and thought processes, and how 10 channels at 100K can literally be the same channel. Like they could be operated by the same person putting a voice modulator on a slightly different recording and a different image that they have pop up through.
Yep.
I, yeah,
I hate that. I hate like the people with like the character, cartoon character who just like kind of moves. I hate it. That's weak content.
It's like I a part of me when I see all that, like I want to be so like with all the content, I like want to be negative, but at the same time, like we're all like humans channeling something. Like there's someone behind that who like lives and loves in their life, or has some sort of expression. It means something to them to output.
It's funny. You're saying that you have the hateful outlook, and yet I'm the one that loves life, but I hate the content. You love the content, but you hate life, or so you say.
I definitely have my moments where it's like I'm out walking around, I'm in the grass, I'm doing it for no one, but I think I've just like built too much of like how I interact with the world through the online medium, to where for a while I was like walking around with you talk about, it might have just been early in this conversation, but like that notion of like memetic intuitiveness. And that was a large reason for starting the channel, was just like when you start like saying memes before they're memes, and making jokes that like repeatedly come true, you feel like this weird connection with the digital realm that, I don't know, it feels like you should act on to some degree, or it's almost upsetting to see
I think
see it unfold in a way without participation.
something I've noticed with I have a friend. They're probably not watching, but he's a twin. He's one of a twin, and they're very funny. They're performers. Like they're very comical in their behavior. And what I notice is that they embody like the fool really perfectly. Like they're just the most perfect, pure fools. That I can tell they make a joke sometimes, and it picks up on the unconscious of the person they're joking with. Like they bring up something they didn't know about that person's day and make a joke, and it's spot on every time. And I think that is what happens in a large scale when you are very used to being involved with memes. And yes, Emily, certainly, memes are those spoken words and photos. And that, oh, which carries more power? That's a great question. I think it's really up to the individual. Every individual is affected by spoken language versus photos differently, in my opinion. But go on.
I'm gonna go on with a hot take. The photo carries. No, I don't know.
I don't know.
It just depends on like what your acclamation. I don't. It definitely varies per individual. I'd say I tend to be like a slightly more visual thinker, so I would say the photo probably. The photo speaks 1,000 words, but I don't know. I think it definitely varies.
It takes me to William S. Burroughs, and it takes me to L. Ron Hubbard and this concept of an engram, or a word, a very dangerous word virus. Like for example, like the N word, or any racial slur has more power than a racist caricature. No, any word, any curse. There's a reason that they're magic words. An image, I think, can carry lasting power, but I don't think it has immediacy the way that spoken words do. Like words cause fights, images don't. You know what I mean? Like, so that's a word virus. It's a word that Hubbard talks about
I
words that can make you sick. You can get physically ill hearing the right connection of words.
to further kind of like build upon this point, when there's like a, I guess, a confluence of meaning, you're giving like more memetic power, because like I don't know, in the difference of oh gosh, don't even get me started on sigils. Like sigils can be 10 times more powerful if it has like the, if you are to understand the components, because so many sigils, like the most common memed sigil right now, like there's witches on TikTok. It's like combinations of letters, which is in its own right like a deconstruction of the meaning of a word and a alignment with particular. See, that's the other thing is like there's uh there's, to one who's like trained in it, there's like meaning to certain images and archetypal symbolism, and just even the direction and like color and consistency of something, like all the different senses, the power of something like that. But I think to like most, I would say actually words in, because it's like we to all who live in a English speaking country and pick it up as their in their babble stage of whatever, like language acquisition, you know, we all have like an agreed understanding. So if I was like wanting to fuck with just a regular person, you know, you cast a spell with the words. If you want to like mess with an apprentice magi or whatever, you put a sigil on their door that they have some beginning understanding of, and it's like do you I have in the fucking Lyrical Lemonade video, I cut out a portion where I talk about chaos magic, and it's like weird connection to the
I heard you
music
talk
industry.
about meme magic in it. You
I like start.
Should have kept it.
I was going to, but I was like, is this? Because I went like on a complete tangent and talked about people not even associated to Lyrical Lemonade. Like just in researching this, I was watching a lot of music videos, and I saw there's an artist who's getting a little bit of traction on TikTok, but has found a lot of traction on YouTube, named Lil Darky. They're almost like the iDubbbz of the rap game, because they're, I believe they're Indian American, and they like get away with saying the N-word and talking about topics. It's a weird realm, because it's very iDubbbz in nature, because I think it's justified through the narrative it's built, and it's this whole strange meta universe of like this guy kind of appropriating racist caricatures in this concept art he's building for himself. And I saw in some of his musics the chaos sigil like continuously popping up, and I was like, this seems hyper deliberate, like they're clearly like fucking with the memetic fabric of the web. And
Lil Uzi Vert is called is using the symbolism of the Heaven's Gate people to a fantastic extent, and it's working.
The other one is D Entword, the South African like hip hop music collective. They like kind of gathered this like I love your stream comment section. This is I feel like I don't interact with enough people of this particular mindset enough, so I just love how I can conceptualize the notion of whoever's watching. I don't even know how many people are watching, but like the trains of thought and the echoes and whatever gets collapsed into words that doesn't even necessarily represent at all how we're comprehending what they're saying. But I need to depart soon as well. But the thing all with the Entword was
we reached 2 words. 2 hours. It's good.
Okay. We reached. So sorry. There's what's his name? It's like Edwin's Generation. He's a commentary channel, does like a good job really going through events and being factual about what's happening. And God, I can't keep looking at the chat section. But he talks about a proposal in like leaked NBC emails. It might be NBC, but DM were proposing this show to their like music industry conglomerate, talking about them basically working with a producer in LA named Chaos, who doesn't go by anything, just wants their symbol in it. And it was this whole like, that shit's so real. If you go to any major metropolitan area and just by proxy of like interacting with certain people, eventually you start like getting inklings that there are these really weird things happening all over the place with culture. And I'll end it on that note with a little.
That's wonderful. This was a really good one. I'm very thankful This was a
Oh,
great
thank you
live
for having
stream.
me. I'd love to
Very
come talk
happy.
again. I'd like to build an alliance. Let's just shake hands.
Yes,
um,
yes. All right. Yes.
all right. Well, it was great talking to you. I'm gonna go drink some water.
All right.
Goodbye.
Enjoy. All right. So long.
Goodbye, everyone on the stream as well. This has been great listening
And
to you.
remember, memes matter.
Memes matter. Yeah, I love that ending. That's really good branding.
Yeah.
There's a hyper like genuineness of the delivery as well. That's like that gets people. You need those moments in your content that are just like it's like in marketing how you have like the click through. People don't always know if marketing works, but if you have a metric that like shows the actual delivery of an action, this is kind of touching into that, touching into what they were saying. But if you have something that like delivers the action, that's how you can sort of get a semblance of like what people are actually responding to content with. So there's a little tidbit.
All right.
All right, goodbye.